A compliment to the governor before we start. She was originally scheduled for 1 o'clock. When we told her team that there was a conflict with Phil Ang of the T, who moved? The governor of Massachusetts. Maura Healey, it's good to see you. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, it's Phil Ang is fantastic. He's moving trains and getting a lot done. So I'm happy to adjust my schedule.
It's very kind of you.
He is. He's a very popular guy. So we were just talking before you came, Governor, about the federal shortfall we could be facing here in Massachusetts. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, we're talking about about $16 billion that we get from the federal government. So if we don't get that, what does that mean for Massachusetts?
It's devastating. And that's why I'm really glad to see A.G. Campbell. She and her team and AGs around the country are doing a fantastic job fighting the efforts to rip away federal funding from our states, federal funding that Congress already appropriated, that's already been obligated, and that for years has flowed to the states to support education, healthcare, infrastructure, and the like. But I want to be clear with the public. We do not have enough money as a state. We do not have enough money to even begin to make up for the shortfall, okay? We're talking about $16 billion as part of an annual budget. Our stabilization fund is only $8 billion. That sounds like a lot of money, and it is a lot of money, and we have an excellent bond rating as a result. But understand, that's not even enough to get us through what we had to get through back in the 2008 recession. So the scale of this is massive, and it's devastating for states, all states around the country, which is why people need to speak up. There needs to be pressure on Republicans in Congress to stop the madness and to shut this down, shut down this activity, the cutting off of federal funds to states.
Just to delve into some of the details for a moment, you and Marjorie mentioned the $16 billion figure. I think almost 14 billion of it is, or somewhere near that, is Medicaid. And while they say they're not going to cut Medicaid,
Mass Health,
that $880 billion cut that's mandated in the budget framework passed by the House obviously has to include Medicaid, and Trump will pretend like it's waste and inefficiency rather than health care. We know that the education department, if you haven't seen it this morning, people, close to 50% of those who work there are being laid off as we speak. And despite what they say, special education, Title I funding for low-income families. So I'm assuming that while you're saying, Governor, obviously we don't have enough money to fill all the holes, you are doing contingency planning about what you do fill when the cuts, whatever they look like, do come. So what is the plan? What are you planning for?
Well, look, we got to be able to do multiple things at once, and that's why it's really tough right now. It's really tough, and I'm incredibly frustrated by Donald Trump and Elon Musk and what they are doing to states all around this country and to this country. And yesterday, it was another $30 million. They thought it was convenient and also not essential for the USDA to continue to provide funds to states so that kids get healthy food in schools. These are the kinds of cuts that we are seeing. The Department of Education, you mentioned, what that means right now, imagine if you're a parent right now in Massachusetts and your child has special education, an after-school program, maybe your child has a reading aid in the classroom, your child is on an IEP and gets services as a result, all of that goes away. All of that goes away. That's federally funded programming. And so you ask what we're doing, Jim. We're trying to both fight back efforts to rip away our funding. We're also trying to advocate strongly for funding. And I'm encouraging people, you've heard me, I'm encouraging people to talk about what's happening to them. And to talk about it all around this country and to bring the pressure on Congress, whose power, by the way, has been usurped. Trump and Musk have just run roughshod over Congress, and Republicans there seem to be totally fine with it. Well, it's not totally fine when people are hurt every day by this. And then, of course, we've got to evaluate, Jim, in terms of what we prioritize, how we prioritize, and that's ongoing work. But the state of play, I just want folks to know, is very, very serious. Very, very serious around this country. We have more federal workers who have been laid off. Imagine that. You guys, there are federal workers who are listening to this call who provide important services, And by the way, as somebody who prosecuted fraud, waste, and inefficiencies in government as your Attorney General, I'm all for that. That's not what this is about. It's a systematic attempt to dismantle government, to bring this wrecking ball to it. To what end, I'm not sure, but we know what it's about. And by the way, Jim, yeah, Medicaid is on the chopping block. Medicare is on the chopping block. Social Security is on the chopping block because you don't cover $4.5 trillion in tax cuts without doing severe damage to those programs.
Two related things, Governor, before we get to the calls, 877-301-8970. We mentioned with Shirley Young from the Globe yesterday the app that you created for fed-up federal workers and laid-off federal workers. How do people find that again?
Yeah, go to mass.gov/fedup. Basically, we wanted to set up a system here so that if you're a federal worker and you were just fired by Donald Trump or Doge, that you have a place where you can go. There's resources to connect you with different job opportunities in state and local government. We're also bringing in the private sector and just some other resources that we can make available. But, you know, my heart goes out to the federal workers who are all across the state. I mean, and people are going to see it, you know. Go to a national park. We've got national parks right here in Boston. See what's happened. Go to a VA. How about the next time you take your dad to the VA? People are gone. People are gone from OSHA doing the inspections on work sites or the inspections out on roads and bridges. People are gone from providing through the National Weather Service what we need to know in terms of storm information. It's very, very serious, and we wanted to be a state that's there for that federal workforce. And there's a lot of talent out there. And again, at the end of the day, what I think about is those federal workers who right now can't make a mortgage payment, can't make a tuition payment, have to worry about how they're going to buy groceries and pay for gas. All of this ripped away from them by Elon Musk and Doge and Donald Trump.
Governor, just one more thing about this. We talked about the $16 billion that comes from the federal government to Massachusetts. So when will we see this money gone, and is there an interim of 1 month, 6 months?
We've already started to see it. I mean, you guys know, A.G. Campbell went to court a few weeks ago for us because they stopped federal funding. They froze federal funding. And some of that has come back online. A lot of it hasn't come back online. So we're already seeing the harm and the devastation. And by the way, it's not just funding to states. Understand the federal government funds a lot of not-for-profits directly, funds a lot of our cities and towns directly. That's all going away too. I mean, I just think about, just with respect to veterans, for example, Trump's proposed he's going to can 80,000 folks from the Veterans Administration. That includes almost 9,000 people here in Massachusetts who are going to potentially lose their jobs. Now, some have already lost their job. I think about an individual who he's 4-time deployed combat veteran, served in Afghanistan, Iraq. He's a mission-driven guy from Western Mass, and so he has been working at the Veterans Administration in Springfield. He is the first person that people see. And you know, if you've got a veteran who's dealing with mental health issues, PTSD, you may only have one shot of getting that person in the door, saving their life, taking care of them and their family. That guy's been fired. And to add insult to injury, the email that he got from Musk and Donald Trump said that he was fired for, quote, unsatisfactory performance.
Yeah.
Complete lie. So can you imagine? You've got a guy who not once, not twice, not 3, 4 times went overseas to serve our country. And this is how he is treated? And that is just one example. And, I contrast that. I got a nice letter the other day from a Purple Heart recipient here, and he was thanking me for what we have done as an administration, passing the HERO Act, right? We have the most comprehensive benefits and services for veterans of any state in the country, and I am really proud of that. And at the same time, you've got Donald Trump and Elon Musk firing our veterans. That's the dynamic that we find ourselves in as a state vis-a-vis the federal government right now.
One last question. You, yesterday, I think you were in Springfield talking about tax cuts that you campaigned on, one from the legislature, roughly $1 billion. If there's going to be such a shortfall, of an undetermined amount, but obviously well more than $1 billion. Have you considered whether or not they should be
Absolutely
postponed
not.
or
I know where you're
done?
going. Absolutely not. We
Why
got to
not?
make life more affordable for people. And I am proud of the tax cuts that we gave. And that extra money back in people's pockets is going to help them be able to pay a gas bill that's too high, going to help them be able to buy clothes for their kids and food and maybe the next appliance that they need. And let me tell you what that is about, Jim. The tax cuts that we did, we're talking about tax cuts for seniors on fixed incomes. What we did as an administration is we doubled the amount that goes back to seniors. So now seniors are going to get an extra $1,200 back every year. I think that's appropriate and something that we should be doing for our seniors on fixed income. I think about families with kids. We changed it so that a family will get a $440 per child tax credit back. That means, a few years ago, we were just giving as a state a $360 tax credit to families. Now it's up to over $1,300. That's meaningful money to working class and middle income families and low income families. That's money that they need. So we have to
Isn't
continue
there no
to do
cap
these
on the
things.
number of kids too?
What's
there?
that?
Wasn't that another change?
We
No
got
cap
rid of
on-
the cap. Yeah. You only could take a credit up to 2 kids. If you had more than 2 kids, or if you had someone at home with a disability or a senior dependent at home, you were capped at 2. And so we got rid of the cap. So, this is about making life more affordable, which is also why I announced plans the other day to take on and lower people's gas bills and energy bills. So we've got to continue to work on making life easier and more affordable, especially at a time when Donald Trump is making life harder and more expensive for folks around the country, including in Massachusetts.
We're talking to Governor Healey. She's with us and you till noon.
Leo and Newton, you were on with the governor. Thanks for calling.
Hello, Leo.
Hi. Good morning.
Hi.
Thank you for taking the call.
Sure.
My question for Governor Healey is I would like to hear her reasoning for why Massachusetts has not joined the Blue State Coalition that was suggested by Governor Pritzker, and whether there are any sort of plans to replace missing federal functions like the EPA and FEMA and other things. And just like to know, in addition to what our Attorney General is doing, whether we have any contingency plans to essentially replace all these potentially missing federal functions.
Thank you, Leo.
Leo, so we are working closely with other governors. We are working closely with our Attorney General. We're going to continue to do that and take action that we can to protect the state, to protect our residents, to protect our economies. That's something that my colleagues as governors and I are doing regularly. So that work continues. And I think I addressed earlier what we can and can't do feasibly with respect to funding and making up for funding and lost personnel. One of the reasons I stood up the Fed Up site is because I want to make sure that there is talent out there, and how do you recruit and retain talent, especially people with so much career experience in fields that are really important, and how can we get folks employed here in Massachusetts and put to work here during this time.
You mentioned energy affordability a minute ago, Governor. I know you talked about long-term reform and a short-term sort of credit. We have a bunch of texters. Why is the DPU giving Eversource huge increases, 27% in November? They should be investigated. Making life more affordable means raising my heating costs by 30%. And we talked ad nauseum on the show about this incredible deal a few weeks ago where the utility companies were going to give people a cut in March or April and then make them pay it back, one with interest, which they rescinded. What's your plan? What are you going to do here?
So we came out the other day with a strong plan to get at issues of energy affordability. So our plan basically is to be able to reduce people's energy costs by about $6 billion over the next 5 years. So we took action the other day. I don't have control over everything, but what is within my power, we acted on. And we think that that action is going to save people a total of $6 billion in Massachusetts over the next 5 years.
What would that mean for the average ratepayer?
What's that?
What would $6 billion mean for the average ratepayer?
So it'll mean you're going to get a $50 rebate back on your next bill next month. You're going to get 10% off your bills for the next 2 months, and you're right, without interest. And we're working on ways to eliminate certain programs that show up on your energy bill. I asked my Secretary of Energy to go through line by line all of our bills and figure out where we have surplus funds in certain accounts that we've collected from utilities and ratepayers so that we can give those back to ratepayers to provide some relief. And we're also going to propose some legislation because I think that there may be different ways that we can go about the purchase of power and the ways that we can smooth out some of the volatility that we're seeing. I'll also say this, this is happening at a time where we're supposed to be getting hydro down from Canada. That's going to lower our bills. Trump's put a tax on that through his tariffs. So, again, Donald Trump, while I'm trying to drive down energy costs, which are high, he's doing things that are only going to make it more expensive. It's also why it's really important that we continue with the wind industry here, because that is energy that can flow, and we don't have to be as reliant on the volatility of international markets when it comes to oil and gas, which is, how we find ourselves in this position now. We already have gas, and we'll continue to have gas in our state, but gas alone isn't going to help do it. We need more energy coming into Massachusetts, and hydro, solar, wind, every option needs to be on the table.
We're getting several texts from parents of kids that are special ed kids.
A lot of texts.
Rod from Salem says he's got a disabled child. He's worried about will he lose paraprofessionals in the classroom, physical therapy, speech therapy. Another mother says she's got a 9-year-old with autism. Will that child lose his IEP? When is this going to happen? That kind of thing.
Yeah, imagine. This is the worry that so many parents are having to experience right now. That is the reality. And I don't have an answer for that because I don't know what exactly the Trump administration is going to do. We know what they intend to do around education. They intend to dismantle the Department of Education. Now,
where that money comes from.
They can't, technically, only Congress can abolish and get rid of the Department of Education. But what can they do? What they're doing right now. Firing half of the staff at the Department of Education. Slow walking and not actually sending the money through to our states and to our cities and towns. So it's a very challenging situation. And that woman and her story is a story that hundreds of millions of people around this country could be telling because, that's what federal education funding means. It does mean whether or not, imagine your child is born and how many have had early intervention services. Mm-hmm. That's federally funded. That goes away. So the cruelty of all this is just, it's sort of hard to fathom, but unfortunately that's the reality that we're living in. We're going to continue, though, to that mom, know that you live in a state that is number one for education, healthcare, innovation. We were ranked the best state to have a baby, to raise a family, to live if you're a woman. We have some of the cleanest drinking water in the entire country. We're among the safest states. So we're going to continue with the investments that we've made. And that's why in my budget, which is funded, Jim, by revenues that we expect to come in, we'll continue to fund the programming, early education and childcare. We've expanded by the end of this year, universal pre-K to all of our gateway cities. We're going to continue to fund a really stepped up effort around literacy in our schools, K to 12. And we're going to continue to fund efforts just generally across the board to provide as much support as we can to our schools.
But the issue basically is if you lose all this money from the Department of Education, $16 billion in federal, the state of Massachusetts does not have the money to make that up.
We don't begin to have the funds.
Yeah, okay.
And that's just for 1 year, right? That's $16 billion is just 1 year of federal funding, which is why this is so serious. And that doesn't even begin to account for, I mentioned not-for-profits. There's additional funding that comes from the federal government. Think about the funding that comes from something called the National Institutes of Health. NIH funds medical research around this country, and it's done so for the last 80 years. And probably as a result, it's led to the greatest explosion of science in centuries, right? Donald Trump wants to cut that. Elon Musk wants to cut that. And that's $3.5 billion to Massachusetts that flows to our research institutions, our teaching hospitals, our colleges and universities that they want to take away.
That's apart from the 16
That's
billion.
apart from, okay? And that's coming directly at our lifeblood, which is life sciences. We are the global hub for life sciences. And it kills me. And it is, again, just hard to imagine what these guys are doing. But this is what they're doing. They're threatening, they're taking away that funding. Again, the AGs had to go to court. Thank you, AG Campbell. And they got an order that said, no, you can't take away NIH funding from the states. That said, the money's not flowing. They're not funding us. And so these institutions have been put in a really hard position. And right now, just down the street, we've got people, because of what Donald Trump and Elon Musk and Doge have done, we've got people who are not getting cancer treatments through clinical trials right now. They've been shut down. We've got the Chinese government on campuses here in Massachusetts recruiting postdocs saying, hey, Donald Trump's taken away your funding through NIH. Come to China. We'll give you an office. We'll give you a lab. We'll give you 90 staff. Okay? So for a guy who has an America First agenda, he's given it all to China. And that really has an impact on our Massachusetts economy because well, you may not be a life science company or a life science researcher or institution. Your business or livelihood, your job, is very much affected by this industry and by what this research spurns. Think about anybody in a law firm with intellectual property and patents. Think about all the construction workers that actually build out all of our offices and laboratories and research space. Think about manufacturers, right? And folks who work for manufacturers around Massachusetts who build and then supply the parts to all these places. This is really, really serious. And it's a serious hit to our economy, serious threat to our economy in Massachusetts. And it's a absolutely devastating human cost when you think about right now. You know, you've got somebody who you know now or might need a cure or a treatment for Alzheimer's, ALS, Parkinson's, diabetes, heart disease, cancer, and they want to take that away. That's what's happening. That is what the Trump-Musk administration is doing right now. And I don't think that that's what most people voted for. I don't think they saw that coming. But that's what's happening. Just like they didn't see 25%, 50% tariffs on our friends to the north. I mean, what have the Canadians done to us? I mean, maybe some hockey games, right? We get upset about that. Okay, friendly rivalry. But what has Canada done to us other than be our largest, most significant trading partner? And because of what Donald Trump and Musk are doing, prices continue to go up. There's no capital deployment right now. If you're a business in this country, where are you going to invest? Where are you going to build out infrastructure? You can't act with any certainty, right? So it just has such a drain on our entire economy. It's why you see the stock market tanking, and I just think, we're going to continue to see a lot more hurt and a lot more harm in the days and weeks ahead because rather than course correcting, what Donald Trump seems to do is just double down. Just double down. And that's where we are.
Let's take some calls.
Sue in Winchester, you're on with Governor Healey.
Hi, Sue.
Hi. Hi, Governor. Could you explain to me a little bit better the seniors discount that you're putting forth for taxes?
Absolutely. And Sue, the best thing you could do is stay on the line and give your telephone number to the team here. And we'll have somebody give you a call directly so that you're able to best take advantage of that tax credit.
Sue, don't go away. We'll get your contact info and we'll give it to the governor's
We did a
office.
training
Thank
yesterday.
you,
We
Sue.
were out,
Oops.
in Springfield, but a lot of these agencies are out giving trainings right now to families. We happen to be at an early ed child care center where a lot of families come and go, so that they could be. We want to get the word out. It's no good having a tax credit if you're not able to take advantage of it, and so we're trying to do that also through our local senior centers and other agencies. But stay on the line, Sue, and we'll take care of you at least.
Thank you, Sue. Governor, before we continue, you wanted to add one thing about the tax cuts.
Yeah, tax season, go to mass.gov/tax cuts, okay? mass.gov/tax cuts. Everything's listed there that you and your family can take advantage of in your tax filing this season.
Great. John in Rockport, you're on with the governor. Hi.
Hey, Jim. Hey, Marjorie. Thank you so much for your show.
Thanks.
Governor, it's a pleasure to meet with you and talk to you.
Nice to meet you, John.
I am a 75-year-old married man to a former but now retired man. He worked for the VA, so as his spouse, I get all of its spousal benefits and particularly health insurance. Now, I have no doubt that the next axe that's going to fall is on same-sex marriage. But over the past couple of days, they've been talking about nullifying it, and I'm not quite sure what that means. And the fact that the state will still recognize it, do they have an opportunity to actually go back and cancel people who are in existing benefits?
Well, John, first of all, I'm glad you called in. Can they try to do something like that? Sure. They've tried to do so many things that are illegal and just wrong. And, I'm not going to tell you that they're not going to try to do that to you and to your husband or to others who are in the same boat. What I will tell you is that you've got a license that comes from the state of Massachusetts. We will honor that. We will always continue to honor that and support marriage equality for everyone. And you will see a fight. If they come after you and your husband and target you, no doubt there's going to be litigation against that because your husband served, he earned it. You earn it yourself as a spouse, and you're entitled to that benefit as any other spouse is entitled to in this country. And that's actually the law. That's actually the federal law. But again, this is unfortunately a president in Trump who doesn't seem to follow the law or obey the law. But I'm glad you're in touch, John. And why don't you stay on the line so that we can get your information and follow up, because I know our veteran services folks are going to want to know your story and be able to make sure we're providing as much support to you and others in your situation as we can.
John, thank you for the call. Speaking of who is the law and LGBTQ plus issues, you were in the room when Janet Mills, the governor of Maine, and Donald Trump had that back and forth around Maine and trans athletes in sports, and it ended with Trump not only threatening her political future, but also saying, I am the federal law. In a related note, Seth Moulton took a ton of heat when he said, I don't want my two daughters run over in the playing field by male or formerly male athletes. At the time, you said he was playing politics with people. Since you said that, and since he said that, a lot of leading Democrats, some leading Democrats, including the governor of California, have essentially said the exact same thing as Seth Moulton has said, a couple of members of Congress in the Democratic Party. Do you feel any differently about it a month or two later than you did when you immediately responded?
No. Look, I think people are playing into, let's know this has been the game. This has been the Republican game, is to pick a really discrete issue. The number of transgender people in this country is very small. The number of transgender athletes in this country is even smaller, and blow that up into something when what we should be focusing on is how and where is Trump going to deliver on his campaign promise, which was to lower costs, which is not what he's doing. I've also spoken about diversity and inclusion, Jim, and I stand by it. I am the product of Title IX. I am the product of a law that said girls and boys should be treated the same when it comes to resources and education. As a result, I was able to have a great public school education. I was able to play sports. Had I not had that opportunity in high school, I would not have be able to go and play college ball or have a professional career. And I can tell you, I would not be governor today were it not for those leadership opportunities and experiences that I had as a result of a federal anti-discrimination law that says we don't exclude women from the table. We don't exclude people of color from the table. It's the way it should be in government. It's the way it should be and has been in our military. And it's the way it has been to success in our business community. So let's get back to saying the words and make people say and explain why they oppose diversity, why they oppose inclusion. You know, antics of more discussion or platforming of Charlie Kirk, to me, that's not what I'm about, okay? As governor in this state, I believe in diversity. I believe that we should continue to have women and people of color at the table. I believe it is wrong to exclude somebody because they have a disability. It is wrong to exclude somebody because of their sexual orientation. That's not what Massachusetts is about. And actually, under federal law, that's not what this country is about. So let's move on. Let's move on.
Well,
And
you
more
know-
people want to make it into something, and you're just playing into the hands of exactly what they want to distract everybody from the $4.5 trillion in tax cuts that they're going to want to jam through by cutting Medicaid, Social Security, and Medicare, period.
Yeah, but on the DEI front, while right where you're standing, the Attorney General, the Mayor of Boston, and you could not have been stronger in defense of DEI. You're surrounded by corporations, universities, nonprofits that are running for the exits as fast as they possibly can. What do you say to them?
I don't see that. And I think, unfortunately, the term DEI, it's become completely caricatured, right? Which is why I don't even say the word DEI. I say what it is: diversity, inclusion, equity. All right. So, I see it in practice. Businesses are actually continuing with these things. Why? Because it turns out studies have shown that businesses that have more diverse representation in C-suites or around a board table have a better bottom line economically. And, I see that that's what people are doing. There's been understandable talk about it because he's threatening every which way action, withholding of funds and the like. But, the programming has, in my view, it absolutely should continue. It's going to continue here in Massachusetts, and I'll continue to support our institutions, colleges, and universities, and our businesses that continue to support this programming. It's what made our country who we are today,
Governor, several people have texted. I can't imagine you could do this, but so many people are wondering. Since the federal government is refusing to give us this $16 billion, can the citizens of Massachusetts refuse to pay their federal taxes back to the federal government?
A lot of people asking that question.
Yeah, this
actually.
must be somewhere online or something like that.
Isn't it sad that it's come to this? That we're even having these conversations. I think what people need to do is continue to speak out, call on Republicans in Congress around this country to take action. They're the ones who can stop this right now.
Do Republicans care what people in Massachusetts think?
Sure they do.
They do?
Sure they do.
Okay.
They care if they have to answer phones,
Yeah.
Repeatedly. And if people, sure, in their districts, it matters more. But I think people got to understand that, make those calls. Make those calls and write letters and talk about what's going on. And the other thing to do, I think, is social media. Share social media. I love the social media, not of politicians, but of everyday Americans. There are a lot of people who are speaking up, who are talking about how these actions are affecting them. Share that stuff, right? That's one way to get stuff out there. And unfortunately, there's a lot of really good material, good examples that people can be sharing to get across this message of why what is happening is so wrong, why it's going to hurt so many Americans, why it's going to hurt our competitive advantage in the world, and why it's going to crush us as an economy. I mean, a few months ago, Joe Biden leaving office, agree with him or not, from all my understanding conversations with economists, we were on pretty good financial footing, And look at where we are now, where Trump is basically agreeing that we're more likely headed for a recession, and he doesn't seem to be having a problem with that. He terms it just a temporary disturbance, but that temporary disturbance is going to wreak havoc with with lives and businesses and industry in our country, and that's just not good.
James in Ipswich, you're on with Maura Healey, Governor of Massachusetts. Welcome.
Thank you for me. Hopefully it's okay. Change the topic. I want to say that my son was in Reading. All of a sudden, EPA.
Hey, James, we have a
Yeah.
horrible connection. We're going to put you on hold. We'll hope you have a better connection in a minute. We'll take another call and we'll try you one more time. Where do you want us to go next there? Donna in Worcester, welcome.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Governor Healey.
Hi.
I'm a longtime advocate for Bridgewater State Hospital for proper care and proper placement. And I have worked with I have read carefully every DLC report in the last 10 years, and they're working for the protection of people with the most serious mental illness. So a couple of things that are a takeaway is that they say that Bridgewater State Hospital is not safe for anyone, and it's incumbent upon the Commonwealth to place Bridgewater State Hospital from the Department of Corrections, who are not mental health experts, into the Department of Mental Health, where they
Hey,
say...
Donna, can I ask you to ask a question? What's your
Sure,
question
sure.
for the governor, please?
Well, I would like to know if she would support how she could help us support getting Bridgewater State Hospital into the Department of Mental Health. We have 3 bills pending,
Understood.
and we've been working very hard.
Let's hear what she has to say. Thank you, Donna.
Don or Donna?
Donna, I'm sorry,
I'm
Donna.
sorry. I didn't- Okay,
That's okay.
Hey, thanks for the call. Look, as governor, I want to make sure we're doing everything that we can to provide support to those who need services, and that includes in mental health, which is why my budget has proposed more assistance, more resources for mental health than any administration in the past. We've opened up over the last 2 years 31 community behavioral health centers that work that are in locations where people can go and get sort of immediate services. It keeps them out of hospitals, actually. I mean, that's one of the things we want to do is meet people sooner where they are, get them care, get them treatment. And that's what these community behavioral health centers do. People can go there, they can stay there for a week, they could stay there for a couple weeks and get them squared away so that they are less likely to have to be hospitalized. But, you know, this is work that we're continuing to do, Donna. It's also very much supported through Medicaid funding, some of it, and another reason why we can't, as a state or any state, afford the cuts that Trump and Republicans in Congress are looking to bring forward.
Donna, thanks for your call. Good luck.
You know, Governor, we talked a lot about the MBTA communities law. It's facing legal challenges in places like Milton now. It's facing them in Rentham and stuff, and the idea is to be able to build more affordable housing. There's been a lot written lately about one of the problems here in Massachusetts is that everything takes so long, and that these local rules that came in to try to give localities more control over this are really hampering what we're doing here. And it could be another 10 years at the rate we're going before we can get any of these proposals through with fighting in the courts and stuff. What do you think about that? The Globe had this line about we need to swing for the fences and stop putting up with local obstructionism, or we're never going to solve our housing problem in time.
Well, look, we've got the MBTA communities law in place. It was something that was passed bipartisan, signed into law by a Republican governor, and one that this governor is enforcing. And the good news is 119 communities are already complying with the MBTA Communities Act. They're bringing more housing online. We've got thousands more units that have come online in just the last year alone. Our economic future and our livelihood, our growth as a state depends on our ability to build more homes. When I knew this was an issue when I became governor 2 years ago. What I did do that had not been done before is ask my team to study this and come back to me with a statewide housing plan. Let's identify how many homes we need to build, and let's break it out by region. We announced that a couple weeks ago. It's 220,000 that we need to build over the next 10 years. We have served up a menu of options through some of the commissions and recommendations that have come out of commissions about things that we can do right away to bring more housing online. I got passed this $5 billion Affordable Homes Act last year, which is providing money to incent development, both affordable homes and also market rate homes. It's a range of things we can do. I'm getting a lot of calls from contractors talking about the number of calls they're getting from people who want ADUs. They've got a property that they can now, they've got an attached garage and they
They can
want
do
to
that
turn
now.
it into
They
housing.
can do that now, right?
And because of the legislation
Yep.
that I signed, people are able to do that. And so it's going to take a range of things. It's going to take a number of different things to get there. But we are full steam ahead on getting this housing built out. And that's why we've said to cities and towns, work with us on this, because it's just so it's the most important thing that we can do as a state.
When you say thousands of houses online, what does online mean?
I mean, built out, developed. Yeah,
So they're going to be built soon?
they're already built.
Well, they are.
Yeah, and in fact, the tax package that I was talking about earlier, last year that tax package gave a tax credit to developers who were willing to build housing in gateway cities. And because of that tax cut and what we did, we have increased housing production in those gateway cities by 600% in just 1 year alone. So there's a way to do that, and there's a way to bring more units online, or what I'm saying is make available. Some
Yep.
of it's new construction, some of it is rehabilitation of existing properties, and the like. But
But not
we've gotta
yet
do
on
it.
the MBTA routes. I mean, maybe I missed something, but not yet the ones that are supposed to be right next to the MBTA, the communities, MBTA community law. Those aren't built yet, are they?
What's that?
The ones that this Baker law about having the MBTA have the,
Yeah.
if you're near the MBTA, got to put the zoning allowing
Yeah.
the affordable housing. Have those been built yet? I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, those are already in process. I mean, as I say, 119 communities already have zoned for, and
Yeah.
we've got some development opportunities underway. We've got a handful of people who are a handful of towns who are opposing that.
Yeah.
That's in court. The AG's been very clear in defending that. But the MBTA communities law is just one of any number of policy initiatives that are out there, in addition to the funding that comes through the Affordable Homes Act and the changes that we made in the tax package that have already brought housing online.
Hey, Governor, we only
We've
have
got a long ways to go, but that housing is coming.
We only have a couple minutes left, but we're getting a ton of texts as well about the death of Enrique Delgado Garcia, who is the young state trooper who died during training. We asked the Attorney General, there's an editorial about this in the Globe today, and we asked the Attorney General about a week ago, what's the status of the investigation by the former prosecutor she appointed? And she said, it's going, I can't tell you anything about it. But the Globe also mentions you initiated a separate investigation asking the head of the state police to conduct an independent review of all academy programs and training. It's been 6 months, as I assume people know, but as the Globe says, but the independent review, meaning the state police heads review, is not even yet underway. Why?
It is underway.
Well, they
And
say it's not. That's not
That's
true?
inaccurate. And also, Colonel Noble's already made the changes with respect to training and
What besides
programming
boxing?
there.
What
But
has he done?
the report, that look is underway. We'll get you more information about that. But I know there was an RFP process that was just completed. We wanted it done right, and we certainly, I think it's everybody's interested in seeing as soon as possible what the results of the special investigation.
But what change?
are.
I know they've ended boxing. What other changes has he implemented while he's doing this investigation? He being Noble.
Well, he's got a crew hired to do this. They did an RFP process so that that now is underway.
Okay. Before you go, another question that I amazingly has gotten a ton of texts. Please ask the governor when we're going to get a WNBA team in Boston. That appears to be a major desire, and it's a break from the pain. How about it? What are we doing?
I know. I would love to have a team here. Yesterday. And I've said that I'll do anything I can as governor to support those efforts. I think there's a great market and a ton of interest here.
Is that, I know did they just add Toronto? Am I right about that? I think they gave a franchise to Toronto. I think it was.
Vancouver, I think.
Was it? Okay.
Excuse me.
Somewhere in the 51st state,
Yeah.
they decided to. Thank you very much.
We should have one in Boston. We're a great market for it.
I would agree with
One
that.
last thing too, that we didn't have a chance to get to them, but so many people calling about their electric bills or gas bills. Where should they go if they are beside themselves over the heating costs? Is there a place that they should take their
Yeah, if they want
anxieties to? If they're upset, they think they're getting overcharged, they're all upset about their heating bills. And their electric bills.
Yeah, we'll put that information up online. I mean, we have some of it probably up right now through mass.gov. You know, you can go on there and see. But that money will be coming back in the form of a rebate and discounts in April and May.
Governor, it's good to see you. I know we're not Seth Meyers, but we're as good as we can be. Let me tell you that.
Good to see you all.
Thank you so much.